Why does the moment of your greatest inspiration feel like the first tremor of an earthquake? Why does the sacred fire of genius burn like a poison in your veins? You are on the verge of creating something magnificent, yet you feel hunted, not by something outside, but by a shadow that wears your own face. This is the great, terrifying secret of the awakened soul. It does not begin in the light. It begins in the quiet room, the empty canvas, the silent instrument, the unwritten page. It begins in the space you have carved out of the world, a sanctuary where you might finally hear the whisper of your own soul. For a time there is nothing, only the sterile hum of modern life, the echo of obligations, the weight of your own history. You wait in the stillness, a solitary watchman at the edge of your own consciousness. And then it comes, not as a whisper, but as a change in pressure, a low vibration from a depth you did not know you possessed. At first it is subtle, easily dismissed as fatigue or fancy, but it does not fade. It grows. This is the ignition, the first spark of the prima materia, the raw, undifferentiated stuff of creation. It is the nameless fire. It is the golden potential that sleeps in the heart of all matter, all life, all psyches. And you, through your discipline, your longing, your sheer desperate will to become, have struck the flint. The fire awakens. The world expects this to be a moment of euphoria, the poet's rite of ecstasy, the artists of divine rapture. But that is a lie told by those who have only seen the fire from a safe distance. To be the crucible for this flame is an act of terror. The fire has no allegiance to your comfort, your sanity, or your carefully constructed life. It is a primordial force, and its only purpose is to burn. It burns through your excuses. It melts down your certainties. It illuminates every crack, every fault, every cowardly compromise in the architecture of your personality. This light is not a gentle dawn. It is a black sun, a source of radiation that begins to transmute you from the inside out. Your sleep is the first casualty. It is no longer a refuge, but a second life, a theater where you are the unwilling audience to symbolic dramas of staggering intensity. You dream of labyrinthine libraries whose books crumble to dust when you open them. You dream of descending into the ocean, the pressure building, only to find you can breathe the crushing liquid darkness. You dream of figures who speak to you in a language you understand perfectly, but forget the moment you awaken, leaving only a residue of profound dread or sorrow. The waking world offers no escape. It becomes thin, translucent. You see the archetypal patterns moving behind the mundane facade of reality. Synchronicities accelerate, losing their charming novelty and taking on the character of a cosmic conspiracy. The same obscure number, the same animal, the same phrase appears with such insistent regularity that it can no longer be called coincidence. It feels like a language, a series of omens from an intelligence that is watching you. And this is the most unsettling realization of all. You are being watched. The watcher is not in the sky, nor is it in the shadows of the street. You feel its gaze from behind your own eyes. It is the awareness of a vast ancient continent of self, rising from the waters of the unconscious. You have spent your life on a small, familiar island, believing it was the whole world. Now, the true scale of your own inner geography is being revealed, and you realize you are not the master of this domain. You are not even a citizen. You are an intruder. This burgeoning light of your consciousness, this fire of your unique genius, has acted as a flare in the immense darkness of your own psyche, and something has seen it, something has stirred. Herein lies the great misunderstood law of the soul, the principle that governs all true transformation, the law of psychic compensation. The psyche is not a machine to be optimized. It is a self-regulating organism of immense and brutal intelligence. It seeks one thing above all else: balance, wholeness. It abhors a vacuum, but it fears a unilateral ascent even more. Any movement toward the heavens of pure spirit, pure intellect, or pure creation must be compensated by an equal and opposite movement from the abyss. The brighter your light burns, the deeper the shadows it casts within you. The more you reach for the divine, the more the chthonic, the primal, the monstrous, will rise up to meet you, to remind you that you are still made of earth, of blood, of darkness. This is the secret alchemy. For every angel you invoke, a demon is given a name. For every virtue you cultivate, a corresponding sin is constellated in the depths. This is not a punishment. It is the terrifying grace of the self, demanding that you do not become a hollow saint, but a complete human being. Therefore, the people who live in shadow that your light magnetizes are not in the first instance the envious colleague, the parasitic partner, or the undermining friend. That is a later, externalized chapter of the war. The first battle is a civil war. The shadow dwellers are the forgotten tribes of your own soul. They are the personified energies of every part of yourself you have disowned, repressed, and judged. The rage you deemed unspiritual, the ambition you called profane, the vulnerability you labeled as weakness, the raw, untamed power you feared would destroy you. They were not annihilated, they were exiled. They have been living in the subterranean kingdoms of your psyche, forming their own culture, their own laws, their own council. And your new light, this glorious, arrogant fire of becoming, is, to them, a declaration of war from the overworld that cast them out. They are not rising to extinguish your light. They are rising to claim their seat at the table. They are rising to be integrated. Your sudden brilliance has not attracted them. It has awakened them. The nightmares, the synchronicities, the feeling of being hunted, this is the echo from the abyss. It is the sound of their approach. This fire you feel is not a gift, but a summons. The brighter it burns, the deeper the shadows it casts within your own soul. And those shadows are stirring. They are taking form. They are preparing to speak. The period of blissful ignorance is over. You have ignited the process of individuation, and it will demand everything from you. It will demand that you turn away from the distracting glow of the outer world and face the council of figures your own light has awakened. This is not a path of self-improvement. It is a path of self-excavation, a dangerous descent into the catacombs of your being to confront the forgotten kings and monsters who rule there. They hold the other half of your power. This fire you feel is not a gift, but a summons. The brighter it burns, the deeper the shadows it casts within your own soul, and those shadows are stirring. Comment, I will face my inner council if you dare to meet the figures your own light has awakened, and subscribe to learn the language of this sacred war. You have answered the summons. You have agreed to face the council. But this meeting does not take place in a location you can find on any map. To enter this chamber, you must close your eyes. You must descend. The journey is not one of distance, but of depth. You move past the chattering parliament of daily thoughts, past the echoing archives of memory, deeper still, into the silent, pre-verbal architecture of the self. Here, in the core of your own being, is the council chamber. It is a place of primordial grandeur and profound neglect. Imagine a throne room in a sunken kingdom, its cyclopean stones slick with moisture, its air thick with the scent of wet earth and ozone. The only light is the faint, struggling luminescence of your own consciousness, the very fire that called this session to order. And in the oppressive, waiting dark, you begin to perceive them. They are not ghosts. They are presences, dense and autonomous. They are the dispossessed regents of your inner world, the living repositories of all the psychic energy you have ever disowned. They are your counsel, and they have been waiting. They do not speak with one voice. They are a dissonant chorus of your own unrealized potentials. As you stand in the center of this sacred and terrifying space, three dominant figures begin to resolve out of the gloom. They are the chief architects of your inner reality, the primary forces awakened by your emergent light. To understand them is to begin mapping the vast, wild territory of your own soul. The first to step forward is a figure of immense, cold gravity. He does not move with flesh and blood, but with the inexorable logic of a glacier. His form is armored, metallic, and his face is a mask of stern, implacable judgment. He is the saboteur, but that is a name given to him by your fear. His true title is the guardian of the threshold. He is the warden of your potential, and his sole purpose is to test the vessel. When you feel the sudden leaden weight of procrastination descend upon you as you approach your most important work, that is his hand on your shoulder. When the brilliant idea you held moments ago shatters into 1,000 useless fragments of doubt, That is his gaze upon you. His voice is the one that speaks with chilling precision in the dead of night, cataloguing your every failure, every insufficiency, every secret shame you thought was buried forever. It is a voice of perfect recall and merciless critique. He is the master of the subtle poison. He does not break your tools, he makes you question your right to hold them. He will convince you that your passion is mere obsession, your vision is delusion. Your unique gift is a common banality that the world has seen 1,000 times before. He orchestrates a paralysis of perfectionism, ensuring that the work is never started, or if started, never finished, because it can never be worthy of the initial flame of inspiration. He is the reason your most profound creations lie dormant in notebooks and half-finished files. He is the silent, suffocating pressure that makes you turn away from the canvas and toward the trivial distraction. His power is the power of the unworthiness complex, a deep ancestral fear that you are a fraud, a pretender to a throne you have not earned. But you must understand his motive. He is not malicious. He is a functionary of the soul's deepest integrity. He is the cosmic quality control. The fire you carry is a dangerous, transfiguring power. In a weak or unworthy vessel, it would become a destructive inferno, burning you and everything you touch. The Guardian's relentless pressure is a form of tempering. He is asking the fundamental question of every hero's journey. Are you truly worthy of this fire? Do you possess the discipline, the resilience, the sheer, unyielding fortitude to wield this power without being consumed by it? His sabotage is a crucible. If you break under his tests, you were not ready. If you endure, if you persist in the face of his absolute certainty of your failure, you begin to earn his respect. His energy, once integrated, does not vanish. It transmutes. The voice of criticism becomes the scalpel of discernment. The weight of procrastination becomes the anchor of profound patience. The sabotaging force is transformed into the unwavering discipline of a master craftsman. As the Guardian steps back, a second figure drifts forward from a different region of the darkness. This one has no armor, no solidity. She is ethereal, shimmering, seemingly composed of unshed tears and old photographs. She is the ghost of every hurt you have ever suffered, from the first skinned knee to the last broken heart. She is the wounded child, but her innocence is a weapon. Her true name is the anarchist of the past. Where the Guardian is cold and logical, she is pure, searing, chaotic emotion. Her power is the power of trauma. She remembers everything, not as a list of facts, but as a felt reality that is happening right now. When your new light begins to shine, making you visible, she is thrown into a state of absolute panic. To be seen, to be known, to be open, this is the precursor to being wounded. This is the state in which all her past pain occurred. Her response is not to test you, but to protect you with a scorched earth policy. She will burn down your life to save you from the imagined threat of being hurt again. Her methods are insidious. She is the master of repetition compulsion. As your light grows, you will find yourself inexplicably drawn to people and situations that are perfect echoes of your original wounds. You will feel a magnetic, tragic pull toward the unavailable partner, the critical boss, the betraying friend. This is her work. She is not trying to heal the past. She is trying to prove its eternal truth. She replays the trauma to reinforce its lesson. You see, I told you it wasn't safe. The world is a predator, and your light is the blood in the water. Put it out, hide, become small again. Her voice is the whisper of victimhood, the seductive siren song of your own powerlessness. She will flood your system with anxiety, with preemptive grief, with a sense of impending doom that feels utterly real. She is the reason you retreat just when you are on the verge of a breakthrough in intimacy or public recognition. She is the architect of your self-imposed isolation, but her anarchic rage is born of a profound, distorted love. She is the keeper of your vulnerability. She holds all the tenderness and sensitivity you had to exile in order to survive. She believes she is your only true protector. To confront her is to confront the deepest reservoirs of your own pain. To integrate her is not to silence her, but to finally give her the safety she has been screaming for. A safety provided not by hiding, but by your own conscious strength and impenetrable boundaries. When her energy is integrated, The anarchic panic becomes a profound well of empathy. The fear of being seen becomes the courage to be authentically vulnerable. The ghost of trauma becomes the wise ancestor who knows how to navigate the treacherous waters of the human heart without drowning. Finally, the third presence makes itself known. It has no fixed form. It is a ripple in the air, a glint in the corner of your eye, the sound of a faint, mocking laughter that seems to come from your own throat. It is the trickster, the agent of chaos. He is by far the most intelligent and dangerous member of the council. He does not attack your light with the directness of the guardian or the emotional terrorism of the anarchist. He seeks to corrupt it from within. He is the grand master of inflation. As you survive the guardian's tests and begin to soothe the anarchist's fears, your confidence grows. You begin to feel the true scale of your power. This is the moment the trickster intervenes. He does not inject doubt, he injects certainty. He whispers that this fire does not just make you capable, it makes you special. It makes you chosen, superior, enlightened. He is the voice of the burgeoning ego, the architect of the Messiah complex. He will encourage you to mistake your sliver of insight for the whole truth, to see your personal mythology as universal law. He will weave a narrative of grandeur around you, isolating you in an ivory tower of your own perceived brilliance. He fuels mania, pushing the creative fire into a reckless conflagration. He encourages you to sever your ties with the mundane, with the beautifully flawed landscape of ordinary humanity, because you are now above it. This is his most brilliant trap. By convincing you that you are a god, he sets you up for a catastrophic fall. He is the force that turns a promising artist into a narcissistic caricature, a spiritual seeker into a cult leader, a visionary into a madman. His function is to test your humility, your connection to the earth, to your own fallible mortal self. He is the court jester who reminds the king that he is still a man. His chaos is a sacred check on the hubris of the spirit. To integrate the trickster is to learn to laugh at yourself. It is to hold your divine inspiration in one hand and your ridiculous humanity in the other, and to honor both. When his energy is integrated, it does not disappear. The potential for arrogance becomes a playful, self-aware humility. The manic energy is grounded into sustainable, joyful creativity. The isolating pride becomes a profound sense of connection to the collective, allowing your light to serve not as a monument to your own ego, but as a genuine beacon for others. There they stand, the guardian, the anarchist, and the trickster, the council of your inner shadows. They are your saboteurs and your saviors. They are the living embodiment of the forces you must confront, not to defeat them in battle, but to engage them in the most difficult negotiation of your life. For in this subterranean chamber, the terms of your future sovereignty are about to be forged. You are no longer an ignorant victim of their machinations. You are now a conscious participant, standing in the center of the circle, aware of the powers that shape you. The real work, the sacred work of integration, is about to begin. The age of exile is over. The era of the sword and the shield, of pushing and resisting the figures in the gloom, has revealed itself as a fool's errand. For how can a man win a war against his own substance? To defeat the guardian is to shatter your own discipline. To silence the anarchist is to murder your own heart. To banish the trickster is to lobotomize your own genius. You stand in the center of the council chamber, not as a warrior entering an arena, but as a sovereign entering into a treaty negotiation with rebel provinces. The goal is not conquest, it is confederation. This is the great and perilous art of the conjunctio oppositorum, the sacred marriage of opposites. It is the work that takes place in the alchemical crucible, the sealed vessel of the soul, where immense pressure and internal fire are applied, not to purify the self by burning away its dross, but to transmute all elements into a single, unified, incorruptible substance. This is the most dangerous and decisive stage of the journey. For the crucible, if not perfectly attended, can crack. And what is released is not gold but madness. The process begins not with a grand gesture, but with a radical shift in posture. You cease to fight, you cease to run, you turn, with the full attention of your being, and you face the first figure. You face the guardian of the threshold. Your instinct is to argue, to defend your worthiness, to present evidence of your strength. But he is immune to your rhetoric. He is a being of pure function. To engage him is to honor his function. You do not address him with words but with action. You sit down to do the work. And as his voice rises in your mind, a litany of your inadequacies, you do not push it away. You allow it to be there. You let the acid of his critique wash over you, and you continue to work. You write the sentence, you play the chord, you make the mark, you treat his presence not as a hindrance, but as a whetstone. You use his relentless pressure to sharpen your focus, to clarify your intention, to burn away every shred of complacency from your craft. This is the first act of integration. You turn the adversary into an instrument. Then you do something even more radical. In a moment of quiet reflection, you speak to him inwardly. You do not plead. You acknowledge. I see you. You communicate. I understand your purpose. You are here to ensure that this vessel does not shatter. You are the keeper of standards. You are the warden of my integrity. I have mistaken your rigor for malice. I have mistaken your tests for sabotage. I was wrong. In this moment of profound recognition, something shifts in the chamber's atmosphere. The Guardian's metallic shell seems to lose some of its coldness. His presence does not vanish, but it reconfigures. He is no longer the adversary standing in your way. He becomes the very ground of discipline beneath your feet. The energy that fueled your self-destruction is reclaimed and repurposed. His critical eye becomes the editor's perfect gaze. His demand for worthiness becomes your own unshakable commitment to mastery. You have not slain the dragon of self-doubt. You have harnessed it. Its hoard of gold, the treasure of supreme discipline, is now yours to command. Now, you must turn to the anarchist of the past, the shimmering ghost of pain. Your approach here must be entirely different. Discipline will not work. Logic is useless. She does not operate in the realm of the mind, but in the untamed wilderness of the heart. To engage her is to enter that wilderness. You must sit within the storm of her emotions without being swept away. When the familiar wave of anxiety rises, the dread of being seen, the preemptive sorrow of abandonment, you do not distract yourself. You do not numb it. You do not attempt to fix it. You simply stay. You become the silent, unshakable witness to your own pain. You offer your presence as a sanctuary. You let the ghost weep, rage, and tremble in the safe container of your conscious awareness. This is an act of supreme courage, to feel the full, undiluted agony of your history without flinching. It is the act of becoming the parent your wounded inner self never had. And then you speak to her, not with the formal recognition you gave the Guardian, but with the language of the heart. I am here, you whisper into your own interior. I will not abandon you. The danger you feel is real, for it was real once. But that time is over. I am grown now. I am strong now. I have walls that cannot be breached and a light that will not be extinguished. I will protect you. You no longer need to burn down my life to keep me safe. This is the sacred vow of the individuating self. You are promising to integrate her wisdom. The wisdom of sensitivity, of caution, of knowing the precise texture of a wound, while relieving her of the burden of being your sole protector. As you consistently prove your trustworthiness through your actions, by establishing firm boundaries in the outer world and refusing to enter into resonant, toxic dynamics, her form begins to change. The terrified phantom solidifies. The anarchic, chaotic energy that once flooded your system begins to flow into discernible channels. The overwhelming pain transmutes into a profound wellspring of compassion, first for yourself and then for others. Her vulnerability ceases to be a liability and becomes your superpower, the source of your art, your intuition, your capacity for genuine, fearless connection. Finally, you must face the most elusive and formidable presence, the trickster. He cannot be approached with discipline or with solace. To engage the agent of chaos is to step onto a dance floor. As the intoxicating whispers of inflation begin, the thoughts of your own superiority, your specialness, your messianic destiny, you do not take them seriously. But you do not reject them either. To reject them is to give them power, to create a new shadow of false humility. Instead, you meet them with a sense of the absurd. You learn to smile at your own grandeur. You catch the glint of the ego's inflation in the mirror, and you offer it a slight knowing bow. You treat the trickster not as a demon to be exorcised, but as a divine court jester whose purpose is to keep you from turning into a tyrant. Your dialogue with him is one of playful paradox. When he whispers, "You are a god," you reply inwardly, "and also a fool who can't find his keys." When he tempts you with visions of a flawless, enlightened self, you counter it by consciously embracing a small, clumsy, beautifully human imperfection. You integrate the trickster by developing a spiritual sense of humor. You learn to hold the sacred and the profane in the same hand. This act disarms him. He thrives on unconsciousness, on the earnestness of an ego that truly believes its own hype. When you meet his inflation with conscious irony, his power to cause a catastrophic fall diminishes. His chaotic energy is not destroyed, it is transformed into its highest expression, spontaneous, joyful, convention-shattering creativity. He becomes the source of your greatest innovations, your ability to think outside the box, your freedom from the prison of rigid respectability. He ensures your light never becomes sterile, never becomes a dogma, but remains a living, dancing flame. To fail in this crucible work is to become a psychic cautionary tale. It is to be torn apart by the very forces meant to make you whole. The individual who cannot integrate the guardian becomes a blocked artist, a perpetual procrastinator paralyzed by a perfectionism that is nothing more than fear in a tuxedo. The one who cannot soothe the anarchist becomes a recluse, a prisoner of past traumas, endlessly recreating cycles of abuse and abandonment. The one who falls prey to the trickster becomes the insufferable narcissist, the fallen guru, the Icarus whose wax wings of ego melt in the heat of his own ungrounded ambition. But the reward for this courageous, terrifying work is nothing less than psychological sovereignty. The immense psychic energy that was locked in a state of perpetual civil war is liberated. The fire of your genius, once a chaotic and self-destructive force, is now contained within an integrated psychic structure. It is no longer a wildfire. It is the controlled, sustainable, and magnificently potent fire of a star, held in perfect equilibrium by the gravitational pull of its own integrated darkness. You are no longer the victim of your inner world. You have become its conscious, compassionate, and sometimes laughing ruler. The crucible cools. The furious bubbling of transmutation subsides. What emerges is not a perfected self, scrubbed clean of all darkness and ambiguity. That is the fantasy of a lesser spirituality. What emerges is a whole self, a unified field of consciousness that has reconciled its own extremes. This is the state of the individuated soul. It is not an endpoint, a static heaven, but a new mode of being, a dynamic equilibrium. You have become a living embodiment of the coincidentia oppositorum, the paradox where opposites meet and coexist without cancelling each other out. Your light has not vanquished the darkness. It has permeated it, infused it, and learned its ancient language. The final state is not that of a simple flame, but of a sun. A sun is a paradox in itself, a continuous thermonuclear explosion of unimaginable violence, held in perfect spherical harmony by its own immense gravitational force. Your light, your genius, your consciousness, your unique essence is the explosion. Your integrated shadow, the discipline of the guardian, the empathy of the anarchist, the humility of the trickster, is the gravity. One without the other is catastrophe, either a diffuse, powerless glow or a black hole of nihilistic collapse. Together, they create a self-sustaining star. This new state of being fundamentally alters your relationship with reality. The world outside has not changed. The greed, the fear, the ignorance, the beauty, the grace, it is all still there. What has changed irrevocably is the instrument of perception. You no longer see the world through the distorted lenses of your unhealed complexes. You see it through the clear, multifaceted lens of a unified self. The immediate effect is a profound sense of inner silence. The incessant draining noise of the internal civil war has ceased. The voices of the inner council are no longer warring factions screaming for attention. They are now trusted advisors, speaking in turn, offering their unique perspectives in a coherent, integrated fashion. Where there was once a cacophony of self-doubt, anxiety, and egoic chatter, There is now a deep, resonant stillness. From this stillness arises a new capacity, the ability to perceive reality as it is, not as your wounds and fears project it to be. You develop what can only be called psychological discernment. You can feel the shape of another person's inner world, their projections, their unmet needs, their hidden agendas, not as an invasive psychic power, but as a simple, clear perception, like seeing the color of their eyes. And now the external dimension of the original prophecy comes into focus. If you shine too bright, you magnetize people who live in shadow. In your former state, this was a curse, a passive magnetic attraction that drew psychic vampires and saboteurs into your orbit, where they fed on your naive light and hooked into your unhealed wounds. But that dynamic is now obsolete. You are no longer a magnet. You have become a resonance chamber, a tuning fork for the truth. When you, in this state of integrated wholeness, encounter an individual who is deeply alienated from their own shadow, someone living a life of pure persona, repressing their power, their pain, or their authentic self, your presence creates a profound psychic dissonance. You do not need to speak a word. Your very being, your emanation, becomes a mirror. This is the resonance effect in action. For the individual who is unconsciously longing for their own wholeness, who is ripe for their own journey, encountering you can be a catalytic event. Your integrated presence resonates with their own dormant potential. In your company, they may feel inexplicably seen, understood, or inspired. Your grounded light activates their own latent spark. You become an unintentional catalyst for their awakening. They are not drawn to you out of a parasitic need, but out of a soul recognition. These are the authentic connections, the confederates of the deep, that now begin to populate your life, drawn not to a blinding light, but to a warm, life-giving radiance. But for the individual who is terrified of their own depths, who has built a fortress of denial around their shadow, your presence is insufferable. The mirror you hold up is too clear, too honest. In your presence, their carefully constructed persona begins to feel thin and fraudulent. The repressed rage they carry feels a flicker of recognition from your integrated guardian. The secret sorrow they hide feels a pull from your integrated anarchist. The arrogant ego they project feels mocked by your integrated trickster. This resonance is deeply uncomfortable for them. It forces them to feel the contours of their own inner dissonance. They have two choices: to be shattered by the truth the mirror reflects, or to flee from it. Most will flee. They will suddenly find you intimidating, arrogant, too intense, or judgmental, even when you have been nothing but kind. This is the mechanism of projection attempting to obscure the mirror. They are not reacting to you. They are reacting to the unbearable vibration of their own unlived life, which your presence makes them feel. They will naturally, and often dramatically, exit your life. There is no fight, no argument, no dramatic confrontation. There is simply a parting of ways, a psychic decluttering. The shadows that once clung to you now recede, not because you have pushed them away, but because they can find no purchase, no hook, no resonant wound on which to latch. Your sovereignty is a passive, impenetrable defense. The final philosophical realization is this: the purpose of the journey was never to achieve a state of perfect, unassailable happiness. It was to develop the capacity to hold the tension of existence itself, to be both compassionate and fierce, to be both profoundly connected to others and utterly self-reliant, to be both divinely inspired and comically, beautifully human. The goal is to embody the light without being naive, and to understand the darkness without being consumed by it. This is the essence of wholeness. Your ultimate purpose is not to shine for the sake of being seen, but to become a force of nature, an agent of reality. Your integrated presence becomes a quiet, persistent, transformative force in the world. You become a walking, breathing act of revelation, not by preaching, but by being. You demonstrate that it is possible to face the monsters within and emerge not broken, but larger, deeper, and more truly alive. You prove that the brightest light is not the one that banishes the shadows, but the one that has journeyed through them, learned their names, and carries the wisdom of the night within its very heart. This is the true power, not the power to control others, but the complete and utter mastery of the self.